Hi everyone, welcome back to The Ethical Life. This week we look at animal ethics. What is the moral status of animals? Do animals have intrinsic value or merely instrumental value? A related question concerns whether we have direct duties or merely indirect duties to them. Aristotle compared animals to human slaves. He said they lacked higher order thought and were made for the sake of man. The normative view is that animals are resources for humans to use for our purposes. A similar kind of view can be found in the Abrahamic religious traditions. In both Christianity and Islam, for example, animals are made for the sake of man, and it is appropriate for humans to use them for our purposes. It is important to note that none of the religions require people to mistreat animals. In fact, reference can be found in all the texts to the wise use and even kindness towards animals. The view was that if people mistreat animals, they are more likely to mistreat humans as well. And this is the view which leads to the indirect duty view. Kant was the philosopher who articulated such a view. He says we owe kindness to animals because we owe kindness to humans. We discharge our duties to humans indirectly by being kind to animals. Jeremy Bentham had a very different view to Kant. He says animals were not put on the earth for human purposes, and instead they matter in their own right. Bentham took the radical step of including the interests of animals in the utility calculus, which means that for utilitarians, animals have maximum moral status, and their interests must be considered whenever decisions that impact upon them are being made. In Animal Liberation, Peter Singer argues that the moral status of animals marks a moral progression that began with black people and then included women and now is to include animals. Singer argues that to deny animals moral status or to give their interests less weight than the interests of human beings is a form of discrimination along biological grounds akin to racism and sexism. He calls it speciesism. A response to Singer is to argue that there is an important difference between, on the one hand, racism and sexism, and on the other hand, speciesism. The important difference is that the former two forms of discrimination concern human beings, whereas speciesism concerns non-human animals. But it is precisely a distinction like this that Singer and Bentham and others that seek to include animals on the moral radar want to challenge. Why should species matter when what is at issue is whether a creature can suffer or not? The point that Singer wishes to draw attention to is that when considerations of suffering are concerned, animals qualify in their own right, in virtue of being sentient. That is, to have the capacity to feel pleasure and pain. Echoing Bentham's view, Singer's point is that when we are thinking about the moral status of a creature, the question is not can they reason, but can they suffer?